guys, welcome back for another video. So today we're going back to the 80s and we're going to learn how to sew a really simple DIY hair scrunchie. So if you are a beginner sewer looking for a great project that is really simple, doesn't take a lot of time, and where you can use scraps and bits of fabric that you may already have sitting around, this is the perfect project for that. It only takes a small strip of fabric, a little piece of elastic, and about 10 minutes of time. So let's go ahead and jump in. So to make your own hair scrunchies, you're going to need a ruler, a rotary cutter or a pair of scissors, some fabric. Now you can use fat quarters, scraps of fabric, whatever you have, some coordinating thread. Then you're going to need a 9-inch piece of elastic. I'm going to be using 1/4 inch. So for the hair scrunchie that we're going to be making today, we're going to need a piece of fabric that is 22 inches in length and 3.5 inches wide. So go ahead and cut your fabric now. So once you have your piece of fabric cut 22 inches long by 3.5 inches wide, you're going to take one of those 3.5 inch ends and you're going to fold it so the pretty side of the fabric folds down towards the wrong side of the fabric. You're going to fold that down 1/2 inch. Now you can use an iron for this step and iron it down. I just am going to finger press it. And you're only going to need to do this to one side. And once we go and put our scrunchie together, you'll see why. So go ahead and give that end a finger press. Once that end is pressed, you're going to take your strip of fabric and then you're going to fold it in half so the right sides of the fabric are together. Again, you can iron this with your iron or you can just finger press it like I'm doing. Now for this part of the project, you can use pins if you want, you can use clips. If you don't have either of those things, that's fine, it's not really necessary. But if you guys have watched any of my sewing tutorials before, you'll know I'm an avid pinner. So I'm going to go ahead and put just a couple pins in there to hold my fabric together. Now we're going to head over to the sewing machine and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam from this side of the fabric all the way down to the other side where we have our end folded. So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so we've just finished sewing our tube of fabric with a 1/4 inch seam along this long edge here. Now it's time to turn this right sides facing out. So for this step, you can use a bodkin, a safety pin. I'm going to be using this tube turner here. I purchased this at my local craft store. I believe it was less than $4. You can purchase these on Amazon as well. So you're going to take the hook end of this and you're going to insert it into your tube of fabric, like that. Take the little hook and you're going to hook this onto your piece of fabric. Then you're going to slowly just kind of start pulling the fabric over itself, like so. Unhook it. And there you go. So go ahead and straighten out your fabric a little bit. Now for this step, you can press this flat if you want to, but because this is going to get wrinkled anyway when you join the elastics together and sew it together, I'm not going to bother ironing it, but you can do that if you'd like. Now that we have our tube of fabric right sides facing out, you can take a safety pin or this same tool here, and you're going to need your 9-inch strip of elastic. Take that hook and insert it through one of the ends of elastic like so. Once your elastic is hooked onto your turning tool here, go ahead and insert that into your tube of fabric. When you get to this end, you're going to want to hang on to your piece of elastic and carefully thread that through. Go ahead and unhook it. Take your piece of elastic on this end and your piece of elastic on this end and hang on to both of those together and remove your tool. Now for this step, you could take your pieces of elastic, overlap them like that, and stitch those together with your sewing machine if you want to. I have found it a lot easier to take the raw ends of the elastic, overlap them, and then just double knot them. Like so. Give it a pull. You'll want to leave this little flap of elastic. If it's a lot longer than this, you can go ahead and trim it down, but it's always a good idea just to leave a little extra elastic there. Sometimes when this stretches out, or if you pull on it too much, the elastic will start pulling through the knot, and if it comes unhooked, your scrunchie is not going to be usable. So leaving a little tiny tail there, take your knot and you're going to feed it into one of the ends of the scrunchie, and you're just going to want to move that knot from where you're going to make your seam. This is going to make it a lot easier to stitch through, having that out of the way. So then you're going to take your raw end of fabric here that didn't get folded down, and you're going to insert this end into this end of your hair scrunchie that's got the nice folded over edge. You're going to want that to overlap about 1/2 inch. So once you have this end of the scrunchie inserted into this end, I like to line up the two seams just to make it look a lot neater. Kind of pull the fabric so it lays nice and flat like that, and you could go ahead and pin this, or you can just take it straight over to your sewing machine, and along this edge here you're going to stitch a 1/4 inch seam from the top to the bottom, and I like to backstitch at the beginning, the center, and the end just to really reinforce it. So let's go ahead and do that now. I would definitely recommend using a coordinating thread that matches your fabric. This way when you're stitching your scrunchie closed, you're not going to see the thread. It's not going to be as obvious when it's finished. But for today's tutorial, since I'm doing this to show you guys, I am going to be using a more of an off-white thread, so it's really going to stand out. So if that's something that you want to do, that is definitely up to you, but I prefer to use a coordinating thread. All right, once you're finished stitching up your scrunchie, go ahead and trim any loose threads that you may have. And there you go. So that's it for how to sew these really simple DIY hair scrunchies. I hope you guys enjoyed this video tutorial. If you're interested in a written out version of this tutorial, you can head over to my website, and I will have a link for that in the description box below, and you can get these step-by-step instructions over there. As always, happy Friday. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next time.